Welcome back to Family Lifestyles. I'm Lynn, Blankenship, the Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences Education in Metcalfe County, and today I am joined by Janarae Conway, who is the Barren River District Health Department Branch Manager for Disaster Preparedness and Response. Thank you for coming today, Janarae.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, and we're going to talk about holiday disaster prevention. What are we going to start with today?
We're going to start talking about holiday fire safety.
Great.
The holidays is a time when, and even in the wintertime, when fires are more common. So with those things in mind, we basically kind of keep in mind, you know, you're decorating your homes, your businesses. That's a long-standing tradition, but these decorations can cause fire. So you want to make sure that everything is safe for your home and your business. And, you know, particularly you think about Christmas trees, natural Christmas trees particularly, are basically almost 1/3 of the home fires. So it's really kind of, you know, something that you've got to keep in mind and keep that safety going. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the what causes fires, and Christmas trees, Christmas tree lights, candles, and heat sources.
Okay.
Depending on what your heat source is. So we're going to talk a little bit about those here today. And, you know, something to keep in mind, if you do get a real Christmas tree, make sure that you keep it watered every day. Yeah. You always want to put water in the bottom. Because when the tree dries out, that's when it's more susceptible to catching on fire. Exactly. And so when you think about your Christmas tree, you're going to want to make sure that you keep your Christmas tree at least 3 feet away from a heat source. And basically, I have a yardstick right here that kind of signifies in how we separated these out. So you've got the heater over here, and you've got the tree over on this side. So making sure that you're keeping that tree watered, but also away from that heat source.
So that would also count for like the in-wall gas fireplaces,
yes,
and regular fireplaces and wood stoves and all of those things. Yes.
Yes, you want to make sure that they are at least 3 feet away from any kind of a heat source.
Okay.
And also, too, something to keep in mind as I was putting this together, I remembered that, you know, back before we had electricity, one of the common things that folks would do is put candles on their tree. Do not put candles on your tree.
Yeah, no.
Don't do that. And then when you think about it too, because electrical lights is another thing that can cause issues, is to make sure that you check your electrical lights. I grabbed these, I've been recently going through my parents' stuff, and I grabbed these from what I had left over after going through them, and I hadn't inspected them yet. But as I was looking through them very quickly here, so far I don't see any kind of fray areas or any breaks in the wiring. If you will see there's a plastic coating on here. If you see any breaks in that, you need to get rid of those.
Sometimes if mice come in, if you live in an older home especially, mice will come in and they will chew on that plastic, and you won't even notice it until you...
Yes, exactly. And if you have cats, cats have a tendency to do that too. Well, some dogs do as well, because, you know, some of them, it depends, especially when they're in that infant, you know, teething stage. So, you know, make sure that you check those and make sure that there's no breaks in that. And then when you're going to bed, you know, make sure that you turn the lights out. You know, make sure that you unplug these. And then also too, read the manufacturer's notes on them and make sure that you don't plug too many of them up together.
Okay.
You know, because these are made to plug up, and you've got an end here and you can plug them together, but just make sure you don't get too many plugged in together.
Okay, so there's usually in the manufacturer's instructions, it'll tell you how many it's safe to do that with.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So just make sure that you do check that and see what that is. And then as far as with candles, you know, again, with home decorations, we said 1/3 of Christmas tree fires. Well, there's another 1/3 that's caused by candles. So if you're using candles, you know, consider using the battery-powered candles instead of the real candles, so that those can be, you know, as far as cut down on the amount of fire hazards that you have. Yes. And if you are going to use real candles, make sure that they're stable enough where they don't get knocked over. But also, too, keep in mind, if you're going to be going in and out of the room, do not light those candles or blow them out, put them out before you leave the room.
Yeah.
Because that, too, is that can be a hazard to leave them alone.
When they start also, if they're like in a glass container or a ceramic container like they often come in, when they start to burn low, it gets very hot on the bottom.
Yes.
And if you have it sitting on a doily or if you have it sitting on something that's flammable,
Yes, exactly.
that's how a lot of those fires start. You forget, you leave it going overnight, it burns
Yes.
way down, it gets super hot, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you've got a fire on your hands.
Exactly, and you want to make sure that you cut down that risk. So making sure that those are done. A couple of other things as far as about candles that I always like to emphasize with folks. If you use fake snow or cotton for fake snow, use the battery-powered candles. Don't use the real ones because that will also catch on fire very quickly. It is flammable. So we always encourage folks on that. And also too, in the wintertime, think about your heating sources. Some people may not have electric heat, so they use wood stoves, or they may have space heaters like this one here, or one of the, or something else similar to that, or gas heat. Keep in mind that you want to be mindful of that heat as well. Make sure that you keep, especially space heaters. You're going to want, again, to have distance between them and like your curtains, your bedding, those kind of things. You don't want them close to that.
Also, if your space heater is an older model, it probably doesn't have the safety where if it gets tipped over,
Exactly.
it shuts off.
Exactly.
The newer ones, so if you have kids or pets, this one's nice and heavy though, but a lot of those plastic ones have an off switch on the bottom so that if
Yes.
it gets flipped over, it turns off.
It turns off. Yes, exactly.
And you want to look for that feature, especially if you have kids or pets.
Right. And if you do have gas heat or if you use kerosene heat for extra, make sure that you've got a carbon monoxide detector.
mention that too.
And because this here, with carbon monoxide, it is an odorless, colorless gas, so you don't even know that it's
accumulating.
there and it's accumulating. So you want to make sure that you have got one of those on hand
Really,
to
if you
notify
have
you.
any gas appliances in your home at
Yes.
all, you should have one of these.
You should have one.
Irregardless of the holidays.
Yes,
So.
exactly. So just making sure that you've got the flammable. And the other thing too about the space heaters or your kerosene heaters, just like candles, do not leave them unattended. So, and then at night, I know that's when it gets the coldest. Don't leave them burning at night. You need to actually unplug them or turn them off at night as well. So just making sure that you've got those things. If you do have gas heat, make sure, and even with a wood stove and a fireplace, make sure that you have them serviced. Make sure the flues are cleaned
Your
out.
chimney, clean your chimney.
Clean
Chimney
that
fires
chimney.
are real. They
Yes,
happen
they are.
a lot in the winter.
There's a story that I like to tell folks about it. My parents had a wood stove in their home. And one of the things that happened, and this was when it was starting to warm up in the spring, and so we had a cold spell. And Dad went to start the stove, get it going again. And there was this commotion falling down the stovepipe.
Squirrel.
No, it was a bird. The birds had already made a nest in the top of the chimney. So please make sure to check for those things before you start a fire in it. And even in the springtime, it might not be a bad idea that if you go in between warm and cold spells to go up there and check that chimney.
I think a lot of people who have a fireplace especially only use it once or twice a year during the holidays. And they
Yes.
probably aren't thinking about checking the chimney and making sure it's clean.
Yes.
But you should definitely check your chimney before you start that once a year fire too.
Yes, exactly, because that could cause a fire in the
Can.
chimney and you don't want to have that
That's no
issue
fun.
going. No, it's not.
Okay, so just, those tips are great tips, Janarae, holiday or not, and it can help lessen the chances of having a home fire, and take the bull by the horns and just take a few precautions, and hopefully we can all have a safe and happy Christmas.
Yes.
So we'll be back in the next segment to talk about our next safety issue, which is going to be
Holiday food.
food safety, holiday food safety.
The longer I live, the more I believe you do have to give before you receive. Been knocked down by the slamming door, picked myself up and came back for more. Life's a dance, you learn as you go. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. Don't worry about what you don't know. Life's a dance, you learn as you go.
Welcome back to Family Lifestyles. Thanks for sticking with us. We're going to talk about holiday food safety next.
Yes, and as with the holiday food safety, this is even stuff that applies during the summertime when you're going on picnics or you're having family gatherings or church potlucks to keep in mind, because foodborne illness is something that is extremely common. And with that, there are actually, certain, we'll go over some of the germs that do cause it and kind of talk about what is the most common causes of it, just illness, hospitalization, as well as death, because some of these, if you don't get help quickly, it can cause death. So kind of keeping in mind just mild illness. Most of us have probably had foodborne illness before. I know that I have. Norovirus is probably one of the top just causing illnesses, but norovirus can also cause hospitalization. This is probably one of the times my husband said he was the sickest, was when he had norovirus, because you basically, it's the leading cause of vomiting and diarrhea at the same time. So, and it can dehydrate you very quickly. Yes. So norovirus is one of those that causes top 5. Salmonella is one that probably folks are very familiar with.
Chicken and eggs and
Chicken, eggs, things like that. You can also get it from other kind of non-food sources. But also Clostridium, Campylobacter, and Staphylococcus aureus. The thing with Staphylococcus is that is a bacteria we have naturally on our skin.
Which is why it's important to wash your hands and your nails and everything before you prepare food for other people, especially if it's going to be raw food, not cooked.
Yeah, especially that, and especially in between, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, making sure that you do wash your hands in between handling raw meat and vegetables and things of that nature. As far as the germs or bacteria, most of these are bacteria, some of them are not, but that cause hospitalization. Salmonella is at the top of the list. Norovirus is back in there. Campylobacter is one of those that also will cause hospitalization. But also you've got Toxoplasma gondia. Now, I may not have pronounced that right, but I will say that was one of those that I looked at and I needed to look up. It's a parasite. And so I think our pregnant women might be kind of familiar with this, because when you're pregnant, your doctor tells you you cannot change the cat litter. This parasite is why. So that is another one of those. It can cause hospitalization. And then E. coli, that's another one that's you see quite frequently in the news. You'll have recalls because of it, and it's a bacteria as well. And a lot of times it's not the bacteria itself, it's the toxin the bacteria creates.
Yes, when it starts to...
Makes you sick.
The Toxoplasma also is prevalent in uncovered sandboxes, and children get it. So that's why they recommend, if you have a sandbox for your child, that you cover it so that any local stray cats, or if you have cats, they can't poop in it.
Right.
And then your child plays in it and gets exposed. So.
And a lot of these can be in your uncooked raw meats.
Yes.
So keep that in mind to make sure that you cook it properly. Some of the ones that can cause death, Salmonella is back in there, our Toxoplasma is back in there. One that we haven't mentioned already that can cause death, and actually I think I saw a recent outbreak of this, is Listeria.
Oh, that's the one that's common on like raw lettuce, spinach, and things like that.
Yes, it's rare, but it is very serious. So if you do, that's one of those that, again, you want to make sure that you wash your fruits and vegetables, that you wash your utensils in between uses, particularly if you're cutting open like the pumpkins and so forth. You're going to want to make sure that you wash your knives and stuff in between as well.
Anything that grows on the ground, where it's sitting on the ground, like a melon or a squash, you need to wash that thoroughly before you even cut it, because you can, if you don't, it can be on the rind from the dirt, and you can draw it through onto the part that you eat with your knife. So that's another thing, is to make sure you scrub them real good.
And that's one of the reasons that, as far as with public health, when we regulate some of the markets, if they cut one open and they leave it open, they can't sell that. Because it could introduce something into it, and then you're not keeping it cold. It's just setting out. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those because we're going to talk about the 4 simple steps to actually prevent food poisoning. And those are clean, separate, cook, and chill.
Easy.
Very easy to remember. So we're going to start with cleaning, washing your hands frequently. In between handling of meat and fresh vegetables, you're going to want to make sure that you wash your hands at least 20 seconds with soap and warm water before, during, and after preparing your food. And if you get thinking, how am I going to know 20 seconds is up? Just sing happy birthday to yourself.
Yes.
It's the easiest way. I think there's another song, but happy birthday is the one I remember. And it's the one that I use. So making sure that you've got that. Cleaning the surfaces, your counter surfaces, is extremely important also in between handling things, as well as cleaning cutting boards, utensils that you're using. Here I've got two kinds of cutting boards. And if you will notice, and we'll talk about separate in a minute, is that the wooden one, if you have a wooden cutting board, I actually strongly recommend that you not cut your meat, raw meat on this, because it actually will absorb that and you will have bacteria growing on here. It's hard to get off. Use this only for your fruits and vegetables. Okay, and that's what I do at home. And then the glass one you can use for the raw meat.
Yes, you should have two separate cutting boards.
Yes,
regardless of what they're made out of. For sure.
Yes, and so making sure that you do that. And then also too, if you do have raw chicken, make sure that you wash it. The same thing actually with the fish. You will read directions, it'll say rinse it off and then pat it dry. So make sure that you do that and you're using a paper towel and you throw it away when you're finished. And then for cooking, you want to cook to the right temperature. So making sure that you're cooking things, and basically each meat has a different cooking temperature that it will reach. And I recommend, I used to not have this, my mother didn't have it, but when I started working for public health, I got me at one of those
digital meat thermometer.
Thermometers. You got a meat thermometer, and you stick it into your meat to see if it's done. Because I never could get chicken done.
Okay.
Especially with bone in it. So I learned that using my thermometer.
Stick it in the thickest part of the thigh.
Yes, exactly. So making sure that you do that, and making sure that you're keeping things separated, as we've talked about here. The other thing that you'll want is the chill. So refrigerate promptly. This is where we get into trouble at potlucks, family gatherings, and picnics. So basically, 2 hours is the max of leaving it set out, because basically bacteria multiply rapidly at room temperature, or when they're within the danger zone, which is 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the reason why hot food in the restaurant is kept hot.
Yes.
Cold stuff is kept cold.
Yes.
So highly recommend that you keep an eye on that. If the temperatures are above 90 degrees, say at a picnic, 4th of July, make sure 1 hour is the max.
Yeah, and you're likely over 4th of July to have like mayonnaise containing salads.
Exactly.
Like chicken salad with fruit and things like
eggs.
that. Ooh, and eggs, deviled or dressed eggs.
Yes, exactly.
Those kinds of things really need to be kept cold or put away within about an hour.
And the last thing that I do want to mention here too is, since we're approaching Thanksgiving, Christmas, we're getting turkeys that are frozen.
Yes.
Make sure you properly thaw your meat out. Thawing meat out basically is either in the refrigerator, and you want to look this up, or in cold water. Do not set it out on the counter, because that means it could come to room temperature as it's thawing and bacteria can start growing. So please make sure that you're thawing your food properly.
So most turkeys need to be, if they're large, they need to be taken out about a week prior and put into your refrigerator.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Just so you know, it's quite a long time.
And kind of reiterate and just very quickly say, that's what can get people in trouble with turkeys, and that's how people can get sick.
That's true. Okay, so join us for the next segment, where we're going to be talking about health and influenza safety.
Another teenager, victim to fake pills. That smells like big crime that needs to be stopped. Before buying pills online, think about this. Should buying prescription pills be this easy? Did you know that fake prescription pills may contain fentanyl, and an amount small enough to fit on the tip of a pencil can be lethal? Before buying pills from social media, think again. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org and go for real.
Welcome back to Family Lifestyles, and we're going to wrap up this holiday safety segment with flu and wellness information.
Yes. December 2nd through the 6th is National Influenza Vaccination Week. Also, I'm going to add to that COVID and RSV.
Yes.
Because basically we're in respiratory season right now.
Yes.
Everyone's getting together for the holidays, and you want to make sure, or you're going to visit grandma or grandpa in the nursing home. Keep in mind, if you've got the sniffles, you're taking colds to that nursing home that can spread very quickly.
Yes.
So making sure that you've got some vaccination, your vaccination status is up to date. It is recommended that those that are 6 months and older get vaccinated for the flu.
Okay.
COVID as well, and those on either end, like the younger ones and the older adults, are recommended to get the RSV.
So adults, I think it's 60 if you're over 65.
It's 65, yes,
Yes.
plus for RSV. So really do recommend that folks keep up to date with their vaccines. And the reason to get vaccinated is that the vaccine may not prevent you from getting ill, but what it does is it basically reduces how severe that illness is. Because we have people still who are hospitalized with flu. Flu can lead to pneumonia, which can be deadly if it's not treated. And then also too, COVID is the same way. We still have issues, and it can go to pneumonia as well.
And they did reformulate that vaccine this year. So sometimes COVID changes, and they did make a vaccine to address the most prominent strain that wasn't here last year.
Yes.
So,
and with the flu vaccine, there are actually 3 flu viruses that are formulated into the flu vaccine. So, and I know that they are developing a flu and COVID combination that we're hoping to have out next year, but it's not here this year.
You can now get them on the same day. We just went and got ours. I get them in one arm, 2 separate arms, and I always do it on a Friday, so I have a couple days if I feel a little low-key. Yeah,
it
doesn't really bother me too much.
Yeah, I usually feel, particularly with both of them, I feel, just a little run
less
down.
energy.
Yeah, a little. It's kind of like I didn't sleep the night before.
But then by Monday you're good.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So those that are the most vulnerable are really recommended to get that. And I will be honest, as I was putting this together, as I was reviewing my my information, realized that there is a long list. So people really look at that list. Go to cdc.gov and look that up on the flu. And these are also the same for COVID as well. People that we mentioned, 65 and older, that's flu, COVID, and RSV.
Yes.
So really, and pneumonia, got to add that one too. Making sure that they've got those things. If you've got chronic lung disease, asthma, that's going to affect respiratory. Particularly, it's going to affect you more. So making sure that you have that. Any blood disorders that you might have, neurological or development conditions. We are starting to see more and more people with those kind of conditions. So they're more susceptible to those respiratory viruses.
I know I work with a group of wonderful special people, and a lot of those folks who are not neurotypical are more likely to get a severe case if they catch it and end up in the hospital. So that's something, that's with if you get vaccinated, that's going to prevent that even if you get it.
Yes.
I got real lazy about 10 years ago, and I failed for a couple of years in a row to get a flu shot. I was like, I haven't had it, and I'm not going to get it. And I caught the flu like maybe the second year after I hadn't gotten a flu shot, and I was sick for a month. I'm not kidding. I was so sick. I didn't end up in the hospital, but it was close. And I've gotten my flu shot every year since then.
I think it was the first year after the health department wasn't doing a vaccination clinic. My son and my husband didn't go to our doctor, and it was before the pharmacies were doing this regularly. They didn't go to the doctor and get their flu shot. And working for the health department, I get it as a staff member, and I made sure I got it. Well, they came down with the flu, and they had it for 7 to 10 days. Yeah. I had it for 3. Yeah. The next year, my son said, make sure you get me in to get my flu vaccine. So My son was convinced after that, and both my son and my husband have some medical issues, so it's extremely important that they
Yes.
get theirs every year. They've had their flu shot this year. Our doctor doesn't do COVID, but a lot of pharmacies do COVID, so I recommend that if your doctor doesn't have the COVID shot on hand, go see the pharmacy.
I just go to the same pharmacy every year, and then they have my vaccination
them.
record, and if I need
Yes.
it for traveling or anything, I can just go and have them print me out a current copy of it.
Yes, exactly, and that's something that's really nice about having that there if you're able to
And
do
they have
that.
my insurance information on file, so I don't need to worry about, do I have my card and all of that.
Right,
So
exactly.
It's pretty convenient.
Couple of other things to think about as far as preventing flu, or even to have on hand if you do get the flu. As we talked about the vaccine for getting vaccinated to reduce the flu being severe, but also to avoid being around others that are sick. So if someone is sick, really just recommend that you not be around them. If you're sick, stay home.
Yeah.
Avoid being around others if you're sick, because that way you're not going to be spreading it to them. If you've got a cough, make sure that you cover your cough. Always, cough into your elbow or even sneeze into your elbow. If you do forget, because we all do, go wash your hands.
Yes.
We mentioned food safety, washing your hands. Wash your hands. If water is not available, have hand sanitizer on hand, and that does help. Or you can also, once you wash your hands, use hand sanitizer afterwards. The thing about it is you want it to be able to dry on your hands. Okay, so you're rubbing it until it dries.
If you're sniffling or coughing and you're going to prepare food for other people, we do have masks laying around from COVID.
Yes.
And they are
Use those.
effective at preventing sneezes and coughs and those droplets
That's
from
right.
getting on the food that you're going to be serving to other people. No one likes wearing masks. We don't want to do it, but we want to keep our loved ones safe
Yes, we do.
if we're not feeling well.
Yes, and that might be something to keep in mind if you're going to visit loved ones like grandma or grandpa that are in the nursing home, is to wear a mask when you go there.
I mean, it really is good to protect other people, and
Yes, it
it's
is.
only going to be for 30 or 40 minutes, and it's,
Yep.
it is effective.
Other things that you'll want to have for the respiratory season is make sure that you stock up on Kleenexes. Make sure you've got plenty of those. Have thermometers. There are the thermometers that you can just kind of point at your forehead and actually get your temperature there. You can also get the digital thermometers that with the sleeves that you can put on them as well. So I recommend that you make sure that you've got a working thermometer at home, the hand sanitizer, as well as the Kleenexes. And then if you do get the flu and you go in, you get tested, you tested positive for the flu, the doctor prescribes you an antiviral medicine, take it. We have antibiotics for bacterial infections.
And they don't work for the flu.
And they don't work on the flu.
Or COVID.
Or COVID, either one.
Those are
Antivirals.
viruses.
Yes.
So you need an antiviral.
Yes.
And also, it's hard to stay hydrated when you have the flu, and sipping on hot liquids like chamomile tea or even just hot water with lemon and honey in
Yes.
it, or fresh orange and honey in it, it can help to thin the mucus and help make your coughs more productive, which helps speed your recovery.
Yes, and also too, drinking plenty of water as well will also
Absolutely.
help with that as well. And it keeps you hydrated if you're doing that. Stay away from caffeinated.
Yes, because that draws water out of your
Yes,
body.
it
makes
does.
you pee more. So,
Yeah.
you want to avoid caffeine and drink non-caffeinated. If you like soda, you could do Sprite or ginger ale. That can help settle the stomach as well.
Yes.
But yeah, avoid the caffeine.
Yeah, and if you do notice symptoms of the flu, I really recommend that you get to your doctor fairly quickly, because the antivirals are more effective if you
Right
get
up
them
front.
right up front in that 24-hour to 36-hour time frame.
Absolutely. So thank you again, Janarae, for coming. It's
you.
always great to work with you. And everybody, have a great holiday season.